Hello and good evening. I thought in this video I would talk about that phrase that everything external of you is a reflection. We'll get into that, but as a sort of reminder, because it helps this channel and it helps put food on the table for myself as well as for the cats, do check out the description box if you'd like a personal one-to-one tarot card reading, or if you need help in any way looking at your personal situation and maybe being able to offer you a different perspective to help put things into context, which will have a dramatic change where you'll feel far more comfortable with your existing surroundings and circumstances. So there's a whole range of things I can help you with, and obviously that's reciprocal, mostly on a donation basis, entirely up to you. But regardless of that, if you're struggling in any way, then do come and talk to me. The door is always open. I am reflecting this material world because I sit right outside a white house and it has a green door. The song called Green Door, I think it was Shaking Stevens, What's Knocking on the Green Door, comes to mind. So let's look at, actually before we get into that, let's go through this immersion that I've been doing that came about what seems like something very negative in loss of internet, and then how that transformed and actually opened up into something very beautiful. What I can also bring into this is something you'll see in the material world that is being reflected to you. And pretty much everything in the external is a reflection. It's whether you can recognize that you're looking at a mirror and then what you see in the mirror is giving you an opposite polarity. The one conclusion I have come to about everything is what you would perceive as the negative, the control system, or whatever you want to call it, is actually guiding humanity, providing you can recognize that there is a mirror between you and the external, and what is being reflected back is coming out in a very different polarity. But it follows a same blueprint, a same schematic, you could say. So by looking at the external and all the stories, what you're actually doing is you're creating new blueprints in neural pathways inside oneself. Externally, things may not look very different. But what you'll also find when you go through this transformation, because we are basically receivers and transmitters energetically, and it's something I've experienced many times, you'll start to move in very different circles, and you'll come across people on similar frequencies, most likely with similar ways of thinking. And it's surprising how many people you then encounter that are aware of certain things and don't go with what the official narrative is saying about this reality. A lot of them have looked into the conspiracy side of things, shall we say. And you can have some very interesting conversations, and it, rather than being met with this, oh, it's not like that. No, that's not how it is. You're not met with this negative wall. As much as anything else, this reality is repeating stories over and over again. And there goes my piece of paper with my bullet point notes on. But not going to complain about that, because I do appreciate the nice little breeze on this hot day. So if we look at the material world, and I do mean the material, just consider you go into a store and you'll find, say for example, t-shirts. They're either in small, medium, large, extra large, extra, extra large, and so on. No accounting for length of arms, length of torso, collar size. So you're being offered a one-size-fits-all, effectively. But there is no one-size-fits-all, not when you internalize things. So my recent experience of being without internet led me down a path of looking into the world of Beethoven, immersing myself in that. The first real benefit you will discover from doing something like this, now I'm using my personal example, I'm not saying do an intense study of Beethoven, go with what interests you. That's the key. What is it that really captures your imagination? What really inspires you? Go with that. Whatever the topic is, and immerse yourself in it. What you'll do by doing that is it's where the energy, what's the saying? Where you focus your attention, that's where the energy will flow. So what you'll find is you'll leave behind a lot of these stories that are put out there with a very negative flavour to them. And you'll sort of go your own way. This is what about being an errant is all about. It's one that goes their own way. It's reflected in the material world when you think of, in the material wealth sense, the countries that allegedly are neutral are the most prosperous. So by internalizing this, we're staying neutral to all the stories in the outside world. And we're doing our own thing. And what I found by this immersion in Beethoven is not only a wonderful discovery of pieces of music I've not heard before, but it's sort of put me on a new trajectory with new inspiration of things I would like to achieve and create in this reality. It's going to be an ongoing story because it seems near impossible from this position in the moment. Hello, Damiana. Come and sat on my lap here and stood on my piece of paper. So the first thing I'm sort of reflecting, you've got a white house. So white is associated with light. It says about let thine eye be singular and filled with light. Now the house we're talking about is the housing, within the housing of the physical body. So let's take what is reflected with a health service, which is a business in sickness. Now, it is presented that it is something that is going to bring about your well-being. So let's look at that. So you are a being, and our well, obviously, is something that is very deep. So it is a deep dive inside oneself. That is the well and the being inside yourself that you're looking for. You'll often get a story, particularly in the UK, around about November time, of a crisis with no beds. So what's that reflecting? There's no place to rest, and you'll see that with the external world. It's trying to keep you busy, it's trying to not give you time to relax and to breathe. But if you can immerse yourself in something, what you are doing, you're stepping into a role where you are using the resources you've got. So it may be just simply being able to reorganize your time and creating a space a quiet time, a quiet space. So you may already have all this available to you. A spare room where you could just say, right, this is going to be my meditation room. For a couple of hours every afternoon or whatever, I will go in there and I will shut myself off from the outside world. So you're stepping into the role of a co-creator. You are creating time and space with the resources you already have. It's just down to perception on how you see these things effectively. So leading on from the White House, what that's associated with, well, that is the United States. Again, internalize that. The influence of the United States across the world is the message. But the United States that you are looking for are the states of mind inside yourself, because every thought you have is going to have a direct effect on the chemical composition of every cell in your body. So what is reflected in a conflict, say the Middle East, and you'll notice in this material world, there does seem to be an assault on the gut to cause dis-ease, disharmony with the gut feeling, creating conflicts between the mind and what the intuition is guiding you towards. So it's about bringing peace in the Middle East inside yourself, in the gut. That allows that Kundalini rising, because you're not putting in interference patterns with negative thoughts on things. It is so easy to allow the mind to go wandering and look at a situation and try and see into the future, and it generally will come up with the most negative of thoughts. It's quite an interesting experiment just to observe your own thoughts. Where's the conscious mind going now? What's this problem it's looking for to try and solve? So it's what is also reflected on civil flights. In the event of an emergency where you emerge and see, the oxygen mask comes down, so you've got a descent. You put the oxygen mask on self first. Now it's not being selfish. It is the exact opposite, because that is another story that's put out about, oh, if you go your own way, you're being selfish. But if you are internally healing yourself and trying to bring about, or you are bringing about that United States of well-being within inside yourself, being in the United States of love inside yourself, you are then able to be in service to others through doing that. I'm not coming to you from a place of, oh, look at me, look at this fantastic mansion I've got and this swimming pool. I'm living through it. So I'm coming from a place of experience. So life does come with challenges. And those challenges do come about when you step out of those comfort zones. But if you don't step out of the comfort zones, how are you going to spiritually grow? On a sort of personal level, I step into the role of being a bringer of life when I go around with a watering can, and particularly in this exceptionally hot weather of this weekend, I feel the plants are very grateful for the extra water they're getting, because that sun is really intense. But again, there's a reflection, intense white light. So what is that saying? Well, it comes down to the intensity of the immersion. How much can you take yourself into a world that you create in your mind, where you shut out all that external negativity, and then it starts to lead to something that's inspirational and, oh, this is now exciting. Where is this going to go? Certainly what I'm going through with this exploration of Beethoven is certainly achieving that. It's opening up new pathways. I listened to, I'd have to check with the radio station of their broadcast listing, but what I feel, it sounds almost like Indian music, but more with a sort of European flavour. So I'm guessing that it's Iranian. But what I could hear in that, and it's like, now this is where I do wish I could write music. I could take the vocal line for the violin and the instrumentation I could then play with and come up with a string quartet or something. That may still happen, who knows? In this day and age with technology, it's so much easier to do because use the resources you've got. The technology can be seen as something bad, but it equally can be seen as something good. It opens up new ways to create, to reach a larger audience. So there's a story that is being played out in this current age of technology. You have a flood, not of water, not like Noah's Ark. You have a flood of information that is all aimed at the mind. It's all designed that you take in all these stories, but it's how you can weigh these stories up inside yourself. Can you reflect on what is being presented and then undo the twist of what is being presented and then see things with a better perception of them? Another thing you'll get, if we look at a story of the demise of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, it consisted of an army at the end of the First World War that had 11 different languages. Notice you've got the 11 there, and of course it all ended in 1918. Well, 1 and 8 is 9. So you'll find this consistent theme of 11 and 9, particularly the number 11 will come into a lot of these stories. The 11 effectively represents the two pillars. You could say it's the sun and the moon pillar. You could also see it as the two sides of a doorway to step through, to take that middle path. You'll hear expressions like Agenda 2030. And many people will straight away think that something is going to happen in the year 2030. But what I would suggest, and if you look at what has been going on, I would suggest you have an 11-year period that started in 2020 that will go on until 2030, that is being played out on this current world stage. But of course you don't have to take part in it. Linked to that, of course, is another big topic that often comes about, and it always comes with compartmentalization. So when you hear the term alien invasion, most people are going to think of little green men in UFOs up in the sky coming from the external. But again, internalize this. Anything that is foreign to the human body, whether it be through deception or just ignorance and going along with it, ingesting something, it is an alien invasion, because it's allowing something that is foreign to the human body into the human body. So there you have an alien invasion that doesn't involve little green men or UFOs. So I think that's sort of covered everything, really. Let's just recap here. So there's a blueprint to look for. That is being the one of being a co-creator. Being able to look at the external world, being able to capitalize on the resources you've got, because you're also becoming a university. It's the you in verse, and the city that you are creating is inside yourself. It answers the question of what is it and why, and then you can see it. So there's your city. Just to bring in a bit of etymology. So, just as on a final note here, because yeah, we're up to 20 minutes. Don't want to make this too long because I've got to stand out there in the blazing sun to upload this, or wait till later in the day. That actually is a perfect reminder to self. Something else with the health service. For the health service to, if I can say it, for the health service to operate, it requires to have lots of patience. So again, internalize this, particularly if you are trying to manifest something for yourself. And I can repeat a story here, what Neville Goddard said about his brother Lawrence. It took him 2 years going past this warehouse every day, looking up at the name on the side of the building, and in his mind he changed it to seeing J.N. Goddard and Sons. So if you are manifest anything, don't try and put conditions on things. Notice you always have terms and conditions in this reality, and saying, right, I want this to manifest in 1 week's time, 7 days' time, because you're dealing with a realm that doesn't know anything about man-made measurements of observation that we call time, days, months, weeks, years, and so on. So it requires, for that well-being, to have lots of patience. And you can use that time constructively whilst you are visioning and co-creating with time and space. You're not then going into the realms of doubt and worry. You're immersing yourself in further creation. And you can also take the active steps as best you can. So, for example, part of what I'm doing, an active step, is to create a video and give a testimony of my experience, going through the experience. So you're effectively getting a real-time story unfolding here. So I think that's sort of covered everything for now. So I don't want to make this too long, but just as a reminder again, and it really does help me, and I'm not joking about this, particularly at this time of year when it is really hot. I have to carefully consider what foods to bring in, because there's no point having all frozen food when you don't have a freezer, and I have no desire to have one either. I've actually made a little polystyrene box that sits on a tiled floor in the cool of the room at sort of ground level, so milk and things will keep for about 2 to 3 days. So it's not a problem. It's just working around things rather than seeing things as obstacles. That again was something that was sort of brought very much home to me with a diagnosis of having chronic fatigue syndrome, where you really do have to, if you believe that story, which of course then you import that feeling into the body, and the body will respond to what those thoughts are being transmitted from the mind, that it actually opens up into something wonderful, because you say, okay, I can see this as a negative barrier, but I can also see there is a way around the things by just changing, reconfiguring how I allot time to things. And you're basically then following the pattern of what exists right in the middle between the black and the white of the yin and the yang symbol. You're following that sort of line of the letter S. It moves in natural curves. It goes one way and then the other. A bit like it's reflected with the sun. It rises and it falls and it rises again. It's doing this continuous sort of flow. And that's really what this comes down to. Learning that language of the gut feeling, going with the intuition, co-creating time, immersing yourself in something, no matter what it is, something that keeps your mind away from focusing on all the negative stories, and then I hope it will open up for you that you can look at the external and see that it is a reflection and it is being shown on an opposite polarity. It's the recognition of the external is the reflection, and then also being able to appreciate that there is a mechanism, a mirror between you, the internal you, and the external around you, and then being able to flip the polarity on things. It won't have a dramatic effect on the entire world because you are a mini universe, a U-inverse within a far greater universe. But it's no different from the physical body. When we have certain thoughts, be them positive or negative, they will affect the cells of the body. So the more you can immerse yourself into something that is creative, with imagination and intuition, it will have a wonderful magic effect on the physical body. So your entire internal universe is then on the same page, and it does become a united states inside oneself. Right, that's, I think, covered everything. So I'm going to end, as always, by saying unconditional love to you and wishing you all a wonderful, wonderful day.